Okay, everybody. Welcome to this week's Writers on Writing reading. Tonight we have Danzy Senna, whose novel New People we've read this week. Danzy went to Stanford and got her MFA at UC Irvine and developed her first book, Caucasia, was it at Stanford? Did you actually start it at Stanford, Danzy?
No, I wrote it at Irvine from start to finish, actually. Yeah.
And her second novel is Symptomatic. And then that was followed by a really extraordinary memoir that I can't recommend to you all strongly enough. Where Did You Sleep Last Night? Really, I think a high watermark of recent memoir writing in American literature. And then that in turn was followed by a very strong collection of stories called You Are Free. And then this novel that we have before us tonight, New People. With each book, I think Senna has been more ambitious and more questing in terms of the forms and the implications of the works, and is operating now sort of at the top of literary writing in America. It's really exciting to see each book as it comes out. And I would say, sort of in the spirit of Writers on Writing, one great thing, a sort of hidden aspect of the writing life that's of great interest to me personally is the relationship that one has over the years with one's colleagues. And Danzy and I have taught together at a program in the summer at Skidmore College. And so I heard Danzy Senna read before I had ever read a book by Danzy Senna. And then over the years, with increasing engagement, I got more and more interested in this first-rate American writer. And it's a fact of sort of how writing works, I think, in America, that there's this possibility always of learning more, being instructed better by the simple fact of being a colleague of a really great writer. And so I've been the lucky one to watch Danzy do what she does over 10 or 15 years now, and to be seeing sort of how deft and accumulated the wisdom is and the invention in these new works. So I think New People is really one of the strongest recent novels I've read, and we're really lucky to have her here today. So please welcome Danzy Senna.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me, everyone? Does that sound good? Thank you so much, Rick, for that introduction and for everything you just said. I'm so flattered and just touched. And it's been such a pleasure to have you as a friend and colleague, and to be such a fan of your work at the same time, and also just hear from students at Skidmore over the years about your teaching. So I know your students are really lucky to have you. I've heard so much amazing feedback about your work in the classroom. So I'm just really, really delighted to be here. And I'm in LA. It's disgusting. It's 102 degrees. And I'm going to pretend I'm in Providence right now with you guys. And I really love to have a conversation more than I do to read out loud. And I know all of you have read this book, but I will read for about 20 minutes from New People. And then I hope that you guys have questions about writing, about the work, anything thematically, or really anything about that you're curious about. So New People, as some of you know anyway, is about a young woman in Brooklyn in the 90s sort of the pre-Lena Dunham version of Brooklyn, and especially this neighborhood that I came of age in that era, which I always think of as like the dreadlocked elite. It was a very exciting time when I lived there. It was like a sort of Black arts movement that really came alive, and a lot of us were finding our identities. And the character Maria is engaged to be married to, she's biracial, her fiance is biracial, and she's doing her dissertation on the People's Temple on Jonestown, the cult, suicide cult of the 70s. And I'm going to read from the middle of the novel. She's having her doubts about marriage to Khalil and this sort of perfect college boyfriend. And the novel kind of goes in and out of the present, her fixation on another man, and her relationship with Khalil, and then her memories of college and Stanford. So I'll just read and then open it up. That night they cook. She and Khalil actually cook, not like an old married couple, but like a newly married couple that will never become dreary or old. They make risotto with white wine and asparagus. It's delicious. They eat it in front of my beautiful laundrette, and afterward, they have sex on the living room shag rug. It is the first time they've done it on this rug. She reminds herself as she hovers over him that it is not so bad. It's just a penis inside a vagina, an ancient and wholesome pairing, like cookies and milk. It makes babies. It isn't that deep. She'll make it to the other side. Khalil falls asleep beside her on the rug, and she lies in the semi-darkness, thinking that the poet is probably making love to the other girl in his little apartment right now. The other girl who is probably a fan of his poetry, who probably has memorized his poems. Maria feels numb at the thought of this, actually numb, which seems surely like a kind of progress. Besides, she loves Khalil. She likes him and loves him. He's the man on her wedding cake. He's the Jimmy and the Johnny of her girlhood daydreams. They make a fine picture together, walking down the street holding hands. Once upon a time, Greg, the white boy she dated in college, asked her wistfully, while tracing a finger along her body, what if the world got so mixed up there was no black and white? Ever think of that? Don't be an idiot, she'd said to him. It's called Brazil. And you want to know something about Brazil? Those motherfuckers coined the phrase money whitens. So don't talk to me about race mixing, because it won't solve shit. Greg also said to her once, I've always thought mixed people were the prettiest. I've always thought it was like God's way of telling us we should mix. She just stared at him that time, fighting the urge to hit him over the head with a small African statuette she kept beside her bed. But maybe he was onto something in his imbecilic, we are the world revelations. She's tired of being smart. Maybe she and Khalil are some kind of solution, the beautiful blend that happens 400 years after humanity's collision. What's black and white and red all over? America, the bloody triumvirate. She and Khalil are what happens when colors mix and then mix again and then again. Okay, so the sex is not great. But in Maria's mind, she's already skipped to the part where they don't have any sex anymore. She's done the math. Apparently, they don't have that many years of good sex left. Once they have kids, it's all downhill. Sex that is at best pathetic, at worst a chore. And Khalil says he wants to try to get pregnant as soon as they're married. So the years of bad sex that are specific to them are not much longer. Soon it will be generalized, married with children, bad sex, and everyone else they hang around will also have kids and also be having bad sex or no sex at all. So she will end up in the same place as the rest of them, no matter who she marries. Maria feels grateful to Khalil for showing up when he did. She is actually aware that there were always other options, other storylines she could have chosen or inherited or stumbled into. Khalil has spared her from all of these other stories. In his arms, she is, as Gloria would say, a radical departure from the obvious scripts for a mixed girl born the year she was born. Scenario 1, she ends up with a white boy, not Greg, an ordinary white boy, a perfectly good white boy, the kind you don't throw out with the trash. Let's call this white boy Dave. Let's say Maria marries Dave. She never feels as black as she does in Dave's arms. When she clears his dishes, she says she feels like his slave. So Dave clears the dishes. She says she feels like his slave when she mops the floor. So Dave mops the floor. She imagines he is raping her when he makes love to her. Dave is anything but a rapist. But still, it's there in the back of her mind when they have sex that he is a rapist. And she tells him, and he hears her. And after that, he's very tender during lovemaking and asks her for permission before he does each and everything. With Dave, Maria runs the show. She is the beloved. He is the lover. Every couple has one of each. If she and Dave ever broke up, she knows and he knows he will never go back to the other side. He will only ever again be with women as dark or darker than Maria. It's true what they say, once you go black, you never go back, even if your black was kind of white. Maria is his island in the sun. She is his Dorothy Dandridge. She is his Gauguin girl in the tropical skirt. She loves and despises Dave in equal measure. It is a happy marriage. She and Dave accrue the trappings of a middle-class life. Turns out everyone who is somebody loves an interracial couple. She benefits from their association. She learns how to be around white people in a way that works for everyone. She learns to wear the smile, the one she's seen all her life on the faces of those brown women married to white men. A smile that is tight and lost and a little bewildered. A smile that wonders, did I win the lottery or lose it? She convinces herself it does not bother her, coming home from a dinner party on the arm of this particular body, walking past the brown boys cluttered on the street corner, feeling Dave's fear as they move past all the dark male bodies she has failed to embrace. Let's say this is Maria's story. She develops a laugh that is light and more impulsive sounding than it needs to be. The kind of laughter that puts white people at ease in her presence. She is the one they're referring to when they say, some of my best friends are black. She is the exception to the rule. She is the one they feel safe around. She adds flora and fauna to their dinner parties, but sometimes still they forget she is black. She has to remind them in small, non-threatening ways. She gives birth to children lighter than herself. Who knew that was possible? Children who someday grow up to go to the best colleges. On their applications, they put down that they are everything because it's true. There is no one drop rule anymore. And only now that the rule is gone does Maria realize how much she has depended on it for her survival. And only now that her children are grown does she realize that what the lady says in the Tide commercial is true. You actually can wash out a stain. It wasn't as stubborn as you were led to believe. You really can get those clothes white again. And once the stain is gone, it is really gone. And she thinks perhaps it doesn't bother her. She is everything she set out to be. She is loved, She is happy. And then one day she notices a pain in her throat when she swallows. She feels a lump there on her neck, a firm bulge under her skin. Now, what is this? And she wonders if the lump there has anything to do with all the times she swallowed her words, if it has to do with her practiced, easy laugh, if it has to do with all the times she smiled so hard her face hurt. No, the doctor assures her, this is just the way the cells divide. This is deeper than skin. Dave makes love to her in the dark that night after her diagnosis. She thinks how in the blue light hovering above her, he looks almost like a black man, the outline of a man who could be her father. Scenario 2, the one where Maria stays true to her race. Oh, it's not pretty either. It ends the same way. She gets cornrows in her hair, but they won't stay neat. The braids keep coming loose. Her girlfriends think she's the funniest thing on earth. Dance for me, Maria, dance for me. She does the smurf for them and they all bust up laughing. She speaks in exaggerated ebonics. She jerks her neck and snaps her fingers and goes on Stokely Carmichael rants when the occasion calls. Later, after college, she has a string of buppy boyfriends, stiff weirdos in suits. They smell too much like cologne. All of them tell her at some point after the first date that they have a crush on Vanessa Williams. She attracts that kind of man. She realizes she looks nothing like Vanessa Williams. She realizes everything is a euphemism. The babies come one after another from 3 different guys. They come like dark waves from her pale body, each one there to make her feel she's crossed over for good. Years later, after all the buppies have left her for white women, she turns into a church-going, middle-aged spinster. She thinks she will find a home in Jesus. Maybe he is the man she was looking for all these years. She sits in church weeping, surrounded by brown women and men who think of her as their little mascot. She is adored. She who has never talked back, never strayed. She is Gloria's daughter. She has become the daughter Gloria wanted, finally. Then one day, there it is, the pain in her throat when she swallows. She wonders, has to wonder, if it has to do with all the times she pretended to hate white people, all the times she pretended to hate half herself, if this lump has anything to do with all the times she has painted herself, her history, as blacker than somebody else's in an attempt to gain membership. Pick me, I'm the soldier you want. Could it have to do with that? No, the doctor tells her as they stand together, staring at the x-rays on the glass, the shapes of problems growing beneath her skin. This abnormality he is seeing has nothing to do with any of that, the doctor says. It was always going to happen, no matter what. What she and Khalil have been trying to pull off here, the audacity of it, is not lost on her. Maria and Khalil wander crate and barrel one afternoon in a dream state, making a list of the objects they hope will fill their cabinet someday, fairly useless household items that, according to the sales lady at Crate and Barrel, are necessities of a grown-up middle-class couple. Objects that nobody, as far as Maria can tell, uses on a daily basis, but they might someday whimsically desire and should therefore have stored away in their cabinets just in case. A Le Creuset pie pan fluted around the edges because someday, once or twice in the next decade, she will want to bake a pie. A 6-speed blender that can crush ice and probably fingers in it too, in its silver blades. A crock pot with a ceramic insert that promises to make wholesome dinners while the multitasking career mother is at work. A mortar and pestle made from volcanic rock, used to crush spices for the slow cooker meals she will someday prepare and leave to cook by themselves. A juicer for the fresh orange juice she will once or twice think to serve her tribe of racially nebulous children in the morning before school. A set of cocktail tumblers and a copper ice bucket for the chic parties they will do every weekend or more likely every few years. An ice cream machine, so they can, on a whim, make exotically flavored ice cream one Friday night after baking their own pizza using the portable Pizzeria Pronto oven. And a non-stick muffin tin too, because although she will not be the kind of dreary mother to slave over a hot stove every day, she will be the kind of woman who might decide to bake muffins once in a while just for fun. So she will have a muffin tin available when and if this should happen. They celebrate the completion of their registry checklist by going out to lunch. Over matching Waldorf salads, Khalil says he has a surprise. He says, smiling, he's contacted a friend at the New York Times who feels confident he can finagle a featured wedding announcement about them. Khalil says this means they will be the subject of a longer article rather than just the blurbs with the headshots they give to everyone else. We're going to be a fucking feature, he says. Maria asks him why. He looks disappointed in her reaction. I mean, she says, are we interesting enough for a feature? We met in college just like 98% of the other couples in that section. What's so great about us? Khalil leans across the table and whispers to her, we're mulatto. Everybody loves mulattoes. Nobody will grow bored of us, ever. He begins to laugh. She laughs too, because it's funny. Every sentence is funnier with the word mulatto in it. After lunch, they look into store windows, holding hands. She glimpses an attractive, smiling couple ahead. It's them, of course, a reflection in the glass. Maria and Khalil. They look good together. They really do. And she is happy with him. She thinks he's probably right about the article. They will be promoted to a feature story. They're already the subject of a documentary, after all. So what if the sex is not great? Nobody has to see their wooden lovemaking. That doesn't have to be in the feature article about them. They only have to know this vision of them, walking down a street laughing together. From far away, they look like a couple that would have great sex. It's not that important, sex. The best sex she ever had was with a white guy she despised and fantasized about bludgeoning to death with an African statuette. I'll stop there.